AITA for calling my husband's friendship with his coworker an emotional affair? Hi, my husband 30M and I 25F have been married for 2 years and known each other for 4. We have an 11-month-old daughter. Our relationship is great, we've been loving our experience as parents. There's just this issue that I thought I had resolved, but my husband's behavior is making me think I went about it in an ah-ish way. Around December of last year, he had referred a woman he knew from his college days. I'd asked him back then if they'd been close friends. He had said they were kind of friends, not close enough to make plans to hang out together, but close enough that they'd hang oi if they saw each other. I was like totally fine with that, obviously. Anyway, she got the job and works in his office, fortunately in a different team. Their friendship seemed to have been blossoming, which again was fine, although it had been intruding into his time at home. Often he'd get texts and smile and respond, and it would be from her. When I'd casually ask what she said, it wouldn't be anything scandalous, sometimes a shared reference from their college life. He took me to a restaurant near his office once as a special night out, and midway through I learned he'd been here before with her. We were about to argue, but he'd said it was just lunch and I also didn't want to ruin our night out, but that's when I really started side-eyeing it. And then finally, when I was going through his phone for a number that he keeps in his contacts, she'd responded to him, and I just clicked on the notification and read some messages. She was complaining about the lack of luck on Tinder and was like going off about the kind of guy she's looking for. And now I don't really fully think she was making a pass, but just some things hit too close to home, my husband. I told him about what I'd read. He didn't mind the reading, we both are very open with our phones to each other. He was like, what's the issue? And I said the kind of conversations and the frequency with which they were happening, since they saw each other at work, went for lunch together, then had these kind of texts at home, it had become an emotional affair and he needed to cut her off. He looked like I'd slapped him. He argued back, really stressing the affair part that I'd said. I told him how stressed this was making me, and I needed all this communication outside work to be stopped, and later said at least has to be toned down significantly. He did agree to it, but made it clear how wrong I was in calling it an emotional affair. This happened on Thursday. He's been pretty cold since, like I don't think I've ever seen him act like this before. Yesterday, I was just cuddling with him and he wasn't being soft like he normally is when we cuddle, and he told me he couldn't believe I called it an emotional affair and that he'd ended it, but this hurt not only him for being accused of an affair but her too, who must think we're crazy. I was hurt and our night kind of ended like that. Have I been TA here? If I have been and am the reason our relationship has taken a hit, I'll fix it. Need a judgment.
Relevant comments. Commenter. So he had a friend and that was the emotional affair? LOL, you snooped and found zero actual evidence, but still made the outlandish accusation anyways. He's never given you reason to doubt him, yet you did it anyways. He caves to your absurd demands, and in the end you are hurt. OMFG, YTA.
OP. I wasn't snooping though, I was on his phone to find another contact's number. And I'm okay with the judgment, but just to provide context, he spends more time with her than his very close friends now because of their work proximity, regular lunches, and then the texts when he was home too. And then her pouring to him the kind of guy she wanted and him agreeing, like all that combined is what pushed me over the edge.
Commenter 2. Question, if this were a guy friend, and every single interaction were the same, would you call that an emotional affair? I ask because it doesn't sound, from your description, that your husband is emotionally invested in this relationship more than he would be with some other friend. An emotional affair is typically when two people are acting as if they were a couple in all ways except for the physical. Things like being flirty, sharing deep feelings, coming to each other with their worries or hopes. It doesn't sound like your husband is doing that.
OP. I would call it a friendship that's infringing on domestic life if he was giving him time at home after 8+ hours at work. And like he has close guy friends whom he doesn't give that much time. And he'd told me she wasn't a close friend back in December, like if he had maybe I could have handled it better. Update. Thanks for the feedback, even, maybe especially, those who said I was in the wrong. Last night, when we were watching TV, his responses to me were still standoffish, which honestly was messing with me more than the actual texts and lunches. So I brought it up with him. I asked if he was angry at me still due to our conversation a week ago. He said no, it's fine, but I still apologized to him. I said using the phrase emotional affair was too much. I said it without realizing what it truly meant. That I couldn't ever imagine him being unfaithful and hurting me and our daughter that way. And I didn't say this to him, and I'm not trying to make excuses, but now that we have our daughter, I think I just thought whatever he had with his workplace friend had the potential of messing with the life and family that we had now, so I might said more than I should have. We made up in the moment with kisses and watching TV. I also said that I appreciated how quickly he dropped everything with her despite any misgivings he may have had about what I was asking of him. He said no problem and that he was glad he could be normal with her in less than a week and she wouldn't be too weirded out by all of it. I felt uncomfortable by that, and framed it in the way a lot of commenters had suggested I frame it. I told him I was uncomfortable with how quickly and deeply his friendship with this single girl, who was supposed to not even have been good friends with him, had strengthened. He again brought up trust, that he was his college friend and all. I said I trust him, just tone it down. I want my daughter and me to be his priority, not some random girl, and I kind of broke down a bit at this point. I know some comments had called me emotionally abusive, but this wasn't something I had planned. I asked him to just not have her be a strong presence, and he said he would tone it down, that he'd keep the friendship to the way it was initially. I'm glad I cleared out the emotional affair part of it. I didn't like to have accused him of it, and it really wasn't. I crossed the line there. And I want to clarify, I'm okay with him having women as friends. One of his close friends is a girl, but again, she doesn't get the same frequency of communication his coworker gets, especially when the work hours are factored in. Anyway, we made up after all of that, and hopefully we're back to the way we were before all of this. Thanks a lot.
Relevant comment. Commenter. OP, there are signs all over here. Can you look at credit card statements? See if he's paying for these lunches? And you seriously need to know how long they are. It sounds like a date to me that he's paying for. That money is out of your account. I would hire a PI to get your ducks in a row and to protect your daughter and yourself. I've seen this happen at places I've worked.
OP. We have a joint account, so I could if I wanted to. But like a lot of people in my first post said, I was snooping in my husband's phone. I just want to again clarify, him and I have zero issues with going through each other's phones for whatever reason. And her message had just popped up when I was on it. So I wasn't on the phone with the intention of collecting evidence. And even right now with the credit card, I don't even know what that would do. I'm positive it's not physical, it'll just cause the distance of the last week to crop up again?
Commenter. Girl, read these comments. That man is cheating.
OP. I've read the comments. I really appreciate all the input, but if I'm being very honest, reading the comments on this post is kind of pissing me off a bit. Last post the comments had, correctly I think, told me that maybe the phrase emotional affair is all that was the problem, but also that just an open conversation was needed, which is what I went into my convo with and apologized for the phrase. And now the comments are different. I would have had a different convo probably if I'd read these in the last post, which just really align with how I'd been feeling back when I first accused him of an emotional affair. I didn't talk to my friend or my mom about this because I'd always been told to not involve others in your marriage. I thought asking here would not be an intrusion, and I'm deeply grateful for the help. I'd felt better last night than I had the entire week because we were finally warm to each other again. I don't think he's physically cheating or will ever, that is not him. That girl's sudden closeness was the only issue for me, which he'll handle now. Edit. Maybe I should rephrase, when I wrote the comments on this post are pissing me off, I didn't mean to be rude, they're just similar to the way I was thinking when we had the fight, and I would have liked these comments to have been on the first post. I know that sounds ungrateful. But it's done, the conversation is done, the vibes are good between us now, and I'll just wait and see.
Commenter. So he pouted until he got his way. Is he dismissive of you when you bring other concerns to him? The fact that his immediate response was that he can go back to normal with his coworker is a giant red flag. You need counseling. He needs to see that this isn't a normal friendship with coworkers. Maybe show him this thread. ETA, OP, I've read your comments about how you're upset with these comments because they didn't show up on the first post. Please know that you can open the conversation with your husband again. Hey, can I please say something concerning the conversation we had earlier? Saying emotional affair might not have been the correct choice in words, so for that I apologize. But I do need you to know that I am upset and concerned that your first reaction was relief that things with your coworker can get back to normal. I feel like that reaction was dismissive of my feelings about the situation. And while I don't want to ever deny friendships to you, you being cold to me over a poor word choice hurts me. Then as soon as I apologized, you stopped being cold to me. Yet being professional with your coworker was a request too far apparently. As my husband, I need to know you're on my team. And right now I'm coming to my teammate telling you that this is concerning me.
OP. Thank you so much. I'll consider this. I hate having to reopen it, especially when I know that my worst fears are irrational. Like I said, I do think the fact that we have our daughter and a family now may have spurred these thoughts in my head, but the extra comfort I'll get from it seems like it might be worth it. Thanks a lot, I'll try to have this conversation.